G'day, Ken here. Welcome to episode 2, and it's been a fair time between drinks. Sorry for the huge delay, but we've had a few delays on our side. Firstly, fairly lengthy process with planning with council. So if you are doing this and going through council, expect that you may have a rather lengthy discussion with council. They fundamentally didn't see too much of the container, and they wanted to keep the tree, so after some backwards and forwards we finally got there, but it was about a 5-month process, I think. Then COVID hit, which sort of held things up a little bit, and lucky last I actually broke my femur, so that knocked me out for at least 3 or 4 months. But we had a bit of a rush going into Christmas, and we got underway, got the earthworks and the footings and the containers delivered. Unfortunately, as some of you may be aware, we didn't finalise and get the final dot on the building permit, so we've had to stop and go back and get some retro approvals in place, but hopefully soon building permit will be issued and we will be on our way. And as some of you new people that are following got onto this, because we had a little publication in the local paper. Some neighbours who are not particularly happy with it decided to go to the press and front page of the local paper, which was very interesting, and we found out that about 250 comments were received when it hit the social media, and of those 250, then 99.9% were favourable of what we're doing. So that's great to see that it appears that the general community are quite okay with sea containers. So I was considering not doing these YouTube posts, but because of the response that we got from people when the issue on the local paper hit social media, quite a few people said they'd be interested in following it, so I'm quite happy to keep doing them. Hopefully it will be useful. There's a lot of information if you're new to sea containers, or even new to building for that imagine. There's a lot of information that I won't be sort of going through in specific, a lot of background about planning and building permits and all that stuff. But if you do have any specific questions that you want answered about the whole process and as we go through it, please just drop me a message on the YouTube channel, and I'll address it in the next time and get back to you. So this will be a fairly rushed one, so we've got a bit of information to go through. So sorry for the length of it, but we'll get you through it and up to speed where we are at the moment. Okay. So hi everyone. So we're on day 3 of the earthworks now. Just walking up to site to see how Andrew, our earthworker, is going. So here we are compacting. Well, I'm not compacting, but the other guy is in there compacting, running it over, and that's going to be the finished floor level of the top of the footing, so the containers will sit about 180 above that, the container of the floor. All looking good. And say g'day to Andrew. Andrew's the earthworker. Say g'day, Andrew.
G'day.
Good work. And this is the, what do they call this? The lights now?
No.
Or laser levels?
Yeah, rotary laser.
Yeah, rotary laser just sends out a beam, so you run around with this little staff here, and that beeps at you to tell you we're at the same level. So you can just set that up somewhere on the site, and then you run around the whole site, and you can get the same level around all that. So it's all looking good. Earthworks all complete, all nice and level, all ready to go to pour the footings. Footings are basically 500 by 500 square by 500 deep. We made up these little timber formwork, which we then set out, got them all nice and level, and then just dug them out to the required depth. Had to make sure that we had about 150 mils of limestone base in the driveway so that the concrete truck can get in without getting bulked. Even in doing that, we found out that we could only get the truck up far enough to fill in 2 of them directly. So the other 26 of the footings we had to do via wheelbarrows. So, enroll the family in there.
Also managed to get the boss down to do some of the levelling on the footings, making sure it's all nice and level. And of course, it wouldn't be family unless you get the grandkids involved as well. So Leighton and Emmett came down and gave us a hand. We also place 50 mils of foam underneath all the containers to provide some insulation to the floor. Most of the containers were delivered by a side loading truck. We had to deposit them at the top of the cul-de-sac because we couldn't get the truck into sight, and these side loaders also need a bit of width, 3 odd metres on the side, to be able to unload the containers. We had to also squeeze them in between existing overhead power lines going to the residents, where you can just see in the top of the video. Once down, we got a 25-tonne franner with its arms sticking up in between the overhead lines, and we walked them in. And this is the franner on site moving the workshop first. So this is where we got to at the end of day one. All of the containers in, bar one. Unfortunately, the delivery started to run a little bit late, and the final container, which goes on top next to that yellow one, which was due at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, wasn't going to get there till about 6:30, so unfortunately we had to call it a day. So it was a couple of days after this, while we were experimenting with cutting openings, that we got a visit from the council officers, who advised us that the building permit hadn't been finalised and that we would have stopped work, which we have done, and that was just around about Christmas, just before Christmas. So this is how the site has been sitting for the last 3 months while we finalise the approvals and get engineers and building managed surveyors to sign off on the work that's been completed.
So thanks for watching episode 2, and sorry it took a little bit of time, but there was a fair bit of information to get through. I do recall in episode 1 I mentioned I would explain the basics of the passive solar design and sustainable features, which I haven't done, but I will do in following episodes. So hopefully we'll get our building permit the next day or two and we can get underway, and I could be posting more episodes on a weekly basis, or if not more. So until then, take care, and we will see you later. Cheers.